The Hello Kitty broadcast incident. In 2008, a strange and deeply unsettling incident took place in Japan, specifically in Sapporo, Hokkaido. To this day, the event remains shrouded in mystery, though fragments of it continue to be whispered about in certain online communities. It's become known as the Hello Kitty broadcast incident. The night of May 17, 2008, started normally for most families. Kids across Sapporo were settling in front of their televisions, eager to watch their favorite show, The Adventures of Hello Kitty and Friends. It was a safe, wholesome show that aired every Saturday evening on KZK-TV, a local Hokkaido broadcasting channel. The show usually ran without incident, bright colors, cheerful music, and simple storylines that entertained children and reassured parents. However, on this particular night, things took a dark and surreal turn. At exactly 5:30 p.m., as the show transitioned from a commercial break, the screen flickered. Families might have expected technical issues, but no one could have anticipated what happened next. The usual cheerful Hello Kitty theme music didn't resume. Instead, the screen turned to static, and a jarring, high-pitched frequency filled the airwaves, sending a chill up the spine of anyone watching. The static faded, and an image appeared. It was the familiar Hello Kitty animation, but something was terribly wrong. Hello Kitty's signature smile was missing, replaced by a vacant stare that seemed almost lifeless. Her usually bright eyes were replaced with hollow, inky black voids, as if something had drained all expression from her face. The screen glitched, and the image zoomed in unnaturally close to Hello Kitty's face. There were visible distortions and shadows where her eyes should have been, and every few seconds, a flicker of something dark seemed to swim within them. Children watching the broadcast began to cry, and parents reported feeling a strange unease, though most assumed it was a temporary technical glitch. Then, the Hello Kitty figure began to speak, though the voice was distorted, slow, and gravelly. It was nothing like Hello Kitty's usual sweet voice. It sounded layered, as if several voices were speaking at once, all in a deep, raspy whisper. "Kawaii," it murmured, the voice sending an involuntary shudder down the spine of those watching. It repeated, "Kawaii, kawaii, kawaii," as if chanting the word in a twisted mockery of the show's usual cheerfulness. Then, with no warning, the scene shifted. The screen showed a dimly lit room. It was hard to make out any details. It was as if the room had been intentionally left vague, shrouded in shadow. In the center of the frame was what appeared to be a small table, and on it lay a doll, a Hello Kitty doll, but dirty, stained with what appeared to be old, darkened spots, as if it had been forgotten in some damp, decaying corner for years. The room was silent except for the faint hum of static. The camera zoomed closer to the doll, and the silence grew louder, more oppressive. Some families said they felt the air grow heavy, almost like the broadcast was invading their living room. As the camera lingered on the doll, parents would later report a sickening feeling, a sense that they were being watched. Some claimed that, in the corner of the screen, a dark figure seemed to shift just out of frame, but it was hard to tell if it was real or just the flickering shadows. And then, without warning, the doll's head twisted. Its blank, lifeless eyes stared directly into the camera, and it opened its mouth wide, wider than any doll should be able to, an impossibly large, unnatural grin. A distorted voice came from it, low and guttural, in broken Japanese. The voice muttered phrases like "come closer" and "I see you," repeating them until the words melted into an unintelligible, garbled sound. Viewers reported that the audio was accompanied by barely audible background noises, whispers, footsteps, and something that sounded disturbingly like the soft, restrained sobs of a child. Just as abruptly as it began, the broadcast returned to normal, picking up in the middle of an episode of The Adventures of Hello Kitty and Friends, as if nothing had happened. The show went on, and no apology or acknowledgement followed. The KZK-TV network received over 100 calls that night. Parents demanded to know what had happened, furious that something so disturbing had been aired during a children's program. TV executives claimed it was a technical issue, perhaps a signal hijacking, but their explanation didn't satisfy many. An investigation was launched by local authorities, and while KZK-TV insisted they had no control over the content aired during that time, it became clear that they, too, had no concrete explanation for what happened. What made the incident stranger was how it seemed to leave a lasting impact on the families who had seen it. Children reported nightmares, often waking up in the middle of the night screaming that the doll was watching them. Several children described seeing a dark figure with eyes that looked like black holes, lingering in the shadows of their rooms. Over the next few weeks, rumors started to spread about other strange occurrences, static voices coming through baby monitors. Children talking to imaginary friends who seemed to share eerily similar descriptions, and stories of Hello Kitty dolls suddenly appearing where they hadn't been left. The investigation led to more questions than answers. Authorities were unable to trace the origin of the signal interruption, though it was widely assumed that it had been the work of an unknown hacker. Technicians at KZK-TV confirmed that no breach in their system had been detected, but their broadcasting signal had somehow been altered, if only for a few minutes. The footage from that night was, according to the station, corrupted. When investigators attempted to review the broadcast, the screen only showed static, and all audio was reduced to an indecipherable hum. Strangely, none of the recordings captured on DVRs or personal devices showed any signs of the incident. Over time, interest in the case waned, though some people who witnessed it continued to look for answers. Online forums dedicated to the paranormal and unsolved mysteries began to refer to it as the Hello Kitty broadcast incident, but discussions were often met with skepticism. Some claimed it was just an urban legend, a creepypasta that had somehow slipped into local lore. Others, however, insisted they remembered that night clearly, and no one could convince them it wasn't real. To this day, no one has come forward with an explanation. Some speculate it was a psychological experiment, an elaborate prank, or the work of a deranged hacker. A few believe it was something darker, something that had left a permanent mark on the families who had seen it, a twisted warning hiding in the guise of an innocent children's show.